In this tutorial, I'll show you how you can create guides from basic shapes to use as a die line in Illustrator.
Hello, creative! It's your graphics girl of graphicsgirl.com. That's graphics with PH and S, girl with no I and 3 R's. And I'm here to help you design your brand.
So I'm always surprised that so many people don't know about this website called brandsoftheworld.com. At brandsoftheworld.com, you can download vector versions of popular logos, such as this one for Best Buy. So all you do is come here and type out Best Buy, and you're going to want to do the vector logo library, and you search. Voila! So you'll see a couple of versions. If you click on one, take a look to see if this is what you're looking for, and if so, you agree to the statement that you read there, that you understand that this is the intellectual property of the copyright holder, that you yourself don't have the rights to use this logo per se without the express written permission of the company. But for our purposes here, we're just going to use this as a student assignment, so we're free to use it just as an example. So you'll click on the download button. So you'll download the file format that it provides. Here, this one's an AI that can be opened up in Illustrator. I just came here about a minute ago and downloaded an EPS, so that must have been that other version that you saw there. So you'll go ahead and download that EPS logo. So you just want to download an AI or EPS vector file format. And then you'll open up that logo in Illustrator. So I'm going to select out this yellow one that I wanted, and I'm going to copy that. Command or Control C. Next, I'm going to create a brand new file with Command or Control N. So I'm going to create this print 8x10 size that is landscape orientation. So once again, the width is 10, the height is 8. When you click Create, we're going to do Paste with Command or Control V as in Victor. So the reason why I'm using this logo as an example of a die line that you can create from a basic shape, it's because I'm going to create a direct mail postcard from the Best Buy logo here, meaning this shape of a price tag will be the outer shape that gets cut of my oversized postcard that you would mail. But in order to lay this out, you can see here that it's at an angle. And when you're laying out the back of the card, you most likely will not want to have to keep everything at an angle. So the first step will be to select all with Command or Control A. And then we're going to take our rotate tool here and double click it and do 5 degrees. So you might say to yourself, how did you know that that was 5 degrees? Well, if I start back at the original here, I could push this all the way over to my edge of my artboard here, or I could bring down a guide for myself, and I could rotate this around and you'll see that it's 5 degrees. Let's do that together now. Let's do Command or Control Y to be in outline mode. Next, I'm going to zoom in up here, and with it selected once more, I'm going to just kind of move over the top of my price tag here to be on that line. I zoom in by taking the zoom tool, Z on your keyboard, and just making a box directly and precisely around that which I wanted. I can see that my overall price tag here is off. I'm going to just put that point directly on my artboard, or the outer portion of my file that I know is a perfect 90-degree angle. So backing out now with Command or Control minus, I can get back to where I see the entire logo. With my Move tool here at the top, I'm going to select my logo one more time, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate around this point. I have my point now precisely on the edge of my artboard, and I want to rotate just this side on the right to move that up while not moving this point here. So to do that, you're going to take your rotate tool, and this time you're going to click down one time on or near that point. Next, you're going to come over here to the right hand side, click and drag up. So sometimes you could do this with your info panel showing and it would show you the actual degree. But if you just use your eyeball here to kind of let go, now you can see that that point 2 is on the artboard or straight line. If I do Command or Control R to show my rulers, I could pull out a guide from my vertical rulers there. And you can see that here as well, that this line is also straight.
Hey! How would you like a free cheat sheet? I thought so. Head over to graphicsgirl.com to get your free Illustrator cheat sheet that will show you all the shortcuts in the program.
So to show you that, utilizing your info panel, once again, I would take my rotate tool, place it on that point that I wanted to rotate around, and I could bring it up. And you can see here when I get to that straight line that is indicative of the outside of the artboard, that the degree of rotation there is approximately 5 degrees. So that's how I knew that this was +5 in its rotation. See here, if I pull down a guide one more time from my top ruler and I place it at the bottom of my logo, you can see the logo is now straight. I'm going to show my preview once again, Command or Control Y. I can right click on my artboard to hide my guides. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo this back by Command or Control Z to undo it back before I rotated it, so that now that I know that it is 5 degrees, I'm just going to double click the rotation tool and punch in that amount, 5 degrees, that it's now, when I click OK, completely straight. All right, so we have now straightened our logo. With it completely selected now, I could push this up. I'm going to use wire view once again to make sure I'm at the very edge of that artboard. And I'm going to now use my scale tool. Similarly, I could double click the scale tool and increase it by a certain percentage, like 200%. Or in this case, just like we did with the rotate tool, I could place a point down on the left-hand side, and now in the lower right-hand corner, hitting Shift, I could drag it away from that point. In this way, I can scale away from a point, just like we did when we were doing the rotation tool around a point. So you can scale or rotate around a point. I have a few tutorials that you can check out in my Illustrator playlist that go into detail with regard to rotating or scaling around a point. So here I'm a little bit over my artboard, which would be fine, except for I'm going to keep this black border on it. So double clicking my scale tool, I could bring that in, let's say 95%. You want to make sure that your scale is uniform. When you're clicking OK, there you go. You have now a Best Buy price tag logo that's well within your artboard. If I were going to be making a direct mail flyer wherein this whole side was the logo, let's say on the other side I would have room for promotional copy, maybe a coupon, whatever sales were going on, as well as an area for the address and person's name who would be receiving this in the mail. To get the die line of a unique shape, we need to create a guide from this unique shape. So here, this outer price tag shape, inclusive of that cut hole there, would be the die line, meaning the edge of your file would be cut along the black border, and you could even do a cutout on the circle. Now, given that that circle would add to cost in the die line, special die that's created to create this shape versus a rectangle, and the fact that you might have copy on the other side, I'm going to say that it's just this outer shape that we're going to do. So I'm going to first come up here under Object to make sure that these elements are not grouped. I'm going to ungroup them. Clicking off to deselect, and then once again clicking in. Zoom in. It looks like this is still selected even when I choose it with my direct select tool. So that tells me that there's a compound path. So you can go ahead and release that. You can tell it was released because now that circle is no longer filled white. So now with your direct select arrow, you can click on that outer shape and only that outer shape will be selected. You see here, no longer is that highlighted blue and no longer is it selected. So this outer shape that we have now, we could copy that with Command or Control C, and then we could paste it right in front with Command or Control F, as in Frank, or front. Last step, you could hit Command or Control 5, or View, Guides, Make Guides, Command or Control 5. When you let go now, it doesn't look like anything's happened. But remember, when we right-clicked, we actually hid our guides. So now go ahead and show guides. Now you can see the light blue highlight of your guides. If you're not completely convinced, I could cut out that guide by selecting it with my Move tool and choosing Command or Control X. And now let's take a look at our layers here. I can make a brand new layer, calling it my guides, and I'll hide this one here. Being in that layer, I could Command or Control F to place it back in place. I'd go ahead and lock it down, why not? And I could double click that guides layer and check that this is in fact a template, which will make it not print. I'm going to go ahead and keep it at 100%. And now you can see with the name being italicized, this is in fact a guide layer. So a lot of times you'll see this layer be below your artwork. So I'm going to go ahead and show that Best Buy logo layer once again. I can hide and show my guide layer that happens to be locked and not printable, meaning when you double click that layer, you can see here that by default, templates don't print. This is just a guide, so the guide wouldn't print anyway, but you'll see with dieline layer, we'll have the dimensions, crop marks, and other information. Many times, your artboard would need to be resized to be the same shape as your tag. You could come up here to Document Setup, or you could choose your artboard tool from your toolbar. You could just bring it on down to that guide. Right here, we want that art to end on the guide. You're looking for that your bounding box to resize it, and now it's dead on. So in between here, I can double click the hand to bring me back to fit to screen, come over to the right hand side with the zoom tool, select the artboard tool, look for my bounding box to click and drag. So once again, if you were to edit the artboard, your artboard could stop at the edge of the stroke. So something like this. So just out of curiosity, my artboard wound up being 9.44 inches wide and 6.06 inches high. For sure, this is a unique die and a non-standard size for a direct mailer, which is fine. So to create a direct mailer out of this, all you would have to do,
How would you like a free cheat sheet? Head over to graphicsgirl.com to get your free Illustrator cheat sheet that will show you all the shortcuts in the program.
is perhaps give yourself another layer. We could rename this layer and call it front of card, right? And go ahead and duplicate this layer by rolling over the new layer icon at the bottom, double clicking it and calling it, back of card. Could hide my front, go ahead and even lock it down if I was concerned. And now the back of my card, why I wouldn't have the logo. And necessarily I wouldn't even have it be yellow. It could be any color I want, but the shape here, what would be cut out. So I could decide to do a die cut on this circle, or just get rid of it completely. I would look up the US Postal requirements for this size direct mailer. And, you know, for example, they might require an area this large to be for the address. Because remember, you need to have that area that gets stamped at the bottom. It looks like a whole barcode and names. And here they would have that, you know, postage stamp area, for example. Sometimes you would see something like this, right? Prepaid postage and things of that nature. So this whole area is that. Now maybe, you know, you have a smaller version of the Best Buy logo. I could come back to my original logo here, the one that was white, for example. I'd come back here and paste it, shift, scale it down by going to the lower right-hand corner and pushing in. You can see that the icon, without even choosing the tools here, if I go to the lower right-hand corner of an object, the straight double-headed arrow is scaling, and when you roll out and you get the rounded double-headed arrow, that's rotation. So you don't even need to choose those tools. You just need to hover near the lower right-hand corner of my object. So we could have something like this, for example. I'm going to group that, you know, so it says even on the one side you know what it is. Or we could change the color and leave this yellow, whatever. Maybe this whole thing becomes blue. If I take my direct select arrow and select the inside of that and come to my color panel, you can show your color panel by coming to Window, Color. I could choose from the pop-up menu here to do the inverse of that color. It'd be a blue shade that you sometimes see on their shirts and whatnots. Copy this one more time and coming out to here, pasting. You know, I could keep that same yellow logo if I wanted this instead, right? Those two colors are going to work, you know, kind of dance together because they're the inverse on the color wheel from one another. So whatever you want to do here, but basically you would probably have a coupon or some kind of offer, maybe the photo of the object that's on sale could be silhouetted out and some copy and Act Now or the stores that you would go to find this great deal. And you have all of this room. The only area that you won't be able to utilize needs to be for the address. And how large this space needs to be is determined in the United States anyway by the US Postal Service. So I have from the US Postal Service a clear plastic guide that gives me various dimensions that I use as a reference when I'm creating direct mailers. But I also rely on my printer, whomever's going to be printing this professionally, and then to double check me, the fulfillment house that's going to be applying my mailing list to whomever's getting this direct mailer. The point is, that's how you can create guides from basic shapes to use as a die line in Illustrator.
If you found this video helpful, give it a like.
Nice.
Share it with your friends, and please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget, for free marketing, branding, and design resources, head over to graphicsgirl.com. That's graphics with PH and S, girl with no I and 3 R's. And I'm here to help you design your brand.